fabulous news, and not just because I like the idea of them putting the stones back on the pyramid, but also because I think they're going to find a lot of things that they don't expect to find. And these discoveries, I think, will vindicate some of my theories that I have been putting forward. But more on that a little later. But before I get into what I actually think is going on here, let's look at what the news had to say. This article was on the Arab News website. Cairo. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has launched a project to study and document the granite blocks that make up the outer casing of the Pyramid of Menkaure, the smallest of the three main pyramids of Giza. In preparation for their restoration, a joint Egyptian archaeological mission is carrying out the project. In the article, Dr Waziri goes on to say what a massive project this is actually going to be. And this is going to be the project of the century. So this project addresses the 16 granite layers of casing stones that were on the Menkaure Pyramid at one stage. But now only 7 of those layers actually sit on the pyramid itself. The rest are just strewn haphazardly around the pyramid. According to Dr Waziri, it's a 3-year project, and it will cover things like photographing, documenting, laser scanning, and probably creating 3D images of each piece. And then my guess is they'll put it into that amazing piece of software that I understand archaeologists have, where they can reassemble a jigsaw puzzle in the virtual world. And I'm assuming that they're going to do this because Dr Waziri also goes on to say how they are planning on restoring those pieces back onto the pyramid itself. Later in the article, it says, "We have observed depictions of Menkaure's pyramid in ancient drawings and inscriptions, and they differ from its current state. This project will restore it to its original state as built by the ancient Egyptians." There's other news articles as well, but they pretty much say the same thing as Arab News. So now let's get into what I think about all this. I think this is fabulous news because anything that puts these beautiful buildings back together is great as far as I'm concerned. It's really awful seeing all these blocks just lying around, as well as those ones just hanging there. Makes you feel really uncomfortable when you're looking up and you see these great big blocks just that have been shaken off but haven't fallen completely to the ground. So where would they put them if they didn't put them back onto the pyramid? Well, they could lay them out flat, the ground that is, nearby to the pyramid, like a walkway of a jigsaw puzzle of these casing stones set into the ground, and people would just walk over them and have a good look at them. That's the alternative. I don't think that sounds particularly appealing, but it does mean that you get a much closer look at them, which in some respects is nicer. But my understanding is that they are putting them back onto the pyramid, and there will be ones that are missing. So what are they going to do? Probably they're going to do 3D generated versions of them. So what do I think the real motivation is for doing this? Well, there is the obvious motivation of tourism, which is what they say is the reason for it. But I don't think that's the 100% of the motivation. I think they actually want to excavate the areas where the casing stones currently sit. There are things down there that they want to have a look at. And that was demonstrated quite clearly by digging down to the lowest level of the pyramid, and there's quite a big distance down there before they get to the actual foundation stones. This part of the project alone is absolutely fascinating, because what they're doing is they're digging down to the lowest level and clearing the area around the pyramid. From a tourist's perspective, we will be able to walk around the pristine bottom layer of this pyramid and see the foundation stones on which this pyramid was built. Before making this announcement, they'd already dug down to the lowest level of the casing stones, and they'd uncovered a small portion of the foundation stone. So imagine this. That is quite a large amount of debris and soil and sand that's covered the area. And yet the casing stones that have fallen off are on the surface there. In my opinion, what they're going to discover is that deeper they dig, the more casing stone layers that they will find going further up the pyramid. They may even discover that the area flattened by the dynastic Egyptians doesn't go all the way down. So I believe that the dynastic Egyptians found this pyramid in a partially clad state, so the 16 layers of granite casing stones were all that actually remained on this pyramid from the earlier times, from the times of Zep-Tepi. And the dynastic Egyptians decided to restore the pyramid in order to gain favor from the gods. So they put on top the beautiful white limestone that they are so well known for, and created a very impressive two-tone pyramid. So this is what I think is going to happen. The archaeologists are going to dig down to that lowest level. They're going to go all the way around the pyramid, collecting up casing stones as they find them, and they will lay them out and do their analysis. But what they will find is that the number of casing stones will be far greater than what they expect of those 16 layers. The deeper they dig, they will find more and more layers that have fallen off. So the surface ones will be the ones that fell off from those 16 layers. And as they dig down deeper, they will find casing stones that go further up the pyramid that were buried before the dynastic Egyptians took over. You will also find the ruins of some buildings which will be clearly megalithic in size. So the sorts of things you see in the Valley Temple and the Assyrian is what they will find if they dig down. They are also likely to find an access way and I think a shaft as well at somewhere around the pyramid. Another part of my theory, why was this pyramid two colours? Well, it's because the dynastic Egyptians found it with the layers of the granite casing stones intact, and because of their love of the gods, anything that was left behind that was the gods' handiwork, they did not want to touch. They wanted to restore, but without doing any damage to what had been before. And since they couldn't replicate that kind of stonework easily, they chose to do it their way with the beautiful gleaming white limestone. A flattened area at the front of the pyramid was their handiwork, so they could put on one of their temples to the pyramid, and it was too hard without flattening out that area. And they're looking for some of the older items, some of the Zep-Tepi items, because that's where it gets really, really interesting. And we're not even going to get told about those if they do find them. So, yeah, that's a bit sad, but hey, maybe I'm a bit cynical, but that's my opinion.